Hey guys, we are still talking about the demise of King Saul. He's gone over the edge and he's basically going completely crazy. You just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So, talked about Jonathan and David. They were basically said their final farewell because Jonathan's dad, King Saul, has gone crazy. And totally all he cares about in the whole world is killing David. So David's on the run. So David runs to this town called Nob and to a priest called Ahimelech. I like it because it reminds me of when you're trying to get somebody's attention, you go, act like you got something in your throat. And you're really trying to get somebody's attention. So his name is Ahimelech. And he goes to the priest. He's a priest. His name is Ahimelech. And he's like, I'm starving. I need some food. So he gives him some loaves of bread that just the day before had been in the presence of the Lord. 5 loaves of bread. So those are pretty awesome. And he says, okay, I need some food. So I got some bread now. Now I need a weapon. I need a weapon. And Ahimelech says, well, I happen to have the sword of Goliath. Will that do? And I love what he says. He says, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine who you killed, is here. It's wrapped in a cloth and it's behind. It's in the closet. If you want it, take it. There is no sword here but that one. Darn. David said, there is none like it. Give it to me. So it must have been a pretty cool sword. Plus, it probably brought back a lot of the memories of how David annihilated the giant Goliath. And I'm sure that having bread that was just before the presence of the Lord and having the sword that reminded him of God's giving him the victory over the giant certainly helped David in his spirit to feel like God was on his side, even in the midst of this bad situation where Saul is just going crazy and trying to kill him. God's still with him. So all these men come up and they start coming around David. Anyone who was in distress, like maybe they were running from the law or running from a problem, they had a lot of stress in their life, or if they were in debt, I mean they owed somebody money and they were running from them, or if they were discontent, unhappy with where they were. It's interesting how all those start with D. Reminds me of Pastor Robert show. 3-point outline. Anyone that was in distress, or that was in debt, or that was discontented, gathered around King David. Or it wasn't king yet, it was going to be king. Alright, so David went and he kept hiding out. Now the prophet of God said to him, go, do not stay in the stronghold, go to the land of Judah. And it's interesting to me that David, in the midst of all this, him running away, the reason he was in Moab, or he was there, is he was taking care of his mom and dad. He went to the king of Moab and he said, would you please take care of, will you let my father and my mother come and stay with you until I learn what God will do for me? And probably if he'd have left his parents there with King Saul would have killed them. So David, in the midst of him being afraid of his own life, he puts others ahead of himself and he goes and takes care of his mom and his dad. So Grace and Dan, if anybody's ever trying to kill our whole family, you take care of mom and dad, okay? I'll take care of you guys too if it ever comes up. Hopefully that'll never happen. So we're going to see here that Saul really is losing his brain. Now Saul heard that David and his men, where they had been, and tells all of his men, if anybody will tell me where David is, I will make them stinking filthy rich. I will give you fields and vineyards. I will make you the commander over thousands of people. So you'll be super rich and you'll be the boss of lots of people. And everybody keeps quiet. And then he says, you have all conspired against me, which means they all have planned an evil plan against him. And nobody's on his side. Everybody's on David's side. Saul has all of his men with him, and he's chasing after David, and he sits down and he has his meeting. He's like, you've all conspired against me. No one tells me where the son of David is, where the son of Jesse is. None of you are concerned about me. Or tells me that my son had made a covenant with David. So he's just having a super big pity party. He's crapping at everybody. Why won't anybody tell me where David is? None of you guys told me what was going on with him and Jonathan. All you guys are against me. So one guy, Doeg, said, well, I was in the town the other day and I saw Ahimelech. And Ahimelech gave him some food and he gave him a weapon. So Ahimelech, that's the last place I saw him. So Saul's furious and he goes to Ahimelech and it's like, why are you taking care of David? You gave him food and you gave him a sword. What is going on with you? What's wrong with you? And Ahimelech answers and he says, David? You're talking about David, right? The guy that totally annihilates all your enemies and totally fights all your battles for you, and who is totally awesome and everybody loves. That guy, the guy that beat the giant Goliath, David, right? Because nobody can understand why Saul hates David so much. They're all like, David's the bomb. And he's totally on your side. What's wrong with you, Saul? Verse 14. And Ahimelech answered, who of all of your servants is as loyal as David, the king's son-in-law? Your son-in-law, he's part of your family. Captain of your bodyguard, he's highly respected in your household. It's like, what's wrong with you, Saul? So Saul, the king ordered, you turn. He said, then the king ordered the guards, turn and kill the priest of the Lord, because they too have sided on with David. But the king's officials were not willing to raise their hand and strike the priest. It'd be like going and killing all the preachers at the church. I would never kill a preacher. And none of Saul's men would do it. They weren't willing to. But finally, one guy, his name's Doeg, he killed the priest. Actually, he killed 85 priests. And then, just to top it off, he said, okay, I'll just kill everybody in the whole city. And he killed... He put the whole city of Nob to the sword, men, women, children, infants, cows, donkeys, and sheep. So, Saul has lost his mind. And David should be very, very scared. So, it does get better. Eventually, Saul's going to be out of the picture and David will be able to be the king. So, what was the priest's name? How do you remember his name? What did the priest give to David? He gave him this kind of food. What was it? How much of it? He gave him this kind of weapon. Whose weapon did it used to be? What was Saul accusing all of his officers of doing? They were on whose side? Then somebody popped up and told that they had seen Ahimelech with David. So what did King Saul accuse Ahimelech of doing? What was Ahimelech's response? What did King Saul tell everybody to do to the priest Ahimelech? What did they do when he said to do that? Then only one guy helped. And what did he do when he started killing the priest? How many did he kill? And he also did something to the whole town. Love you guys. Good night.